What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Weekly Roundup. I'm your host, Jake Friel. As always, Steve Reichel. Getting it. I'm getting the hang of it. Right there. We got it. We're good. But got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Obviously, Jamal Adams asked for a trade or requested a trade from the New York Jets. And he listed Philadelphia as one of his possible destinations. So that's going to be a main topic today. Going to be also giving some of our personal football moments as well. And to wrap up, we will be interviewing Roberto Duran's son, Robert Duran Jr. So that should be a lot of fun. But as always, before we get into it, a word from our sponsor. We are brought to you by our doc, making mirrors, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton locations. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Our poll question today is also brought to you by Ambuck Services, AMBUCK Services.com. Call Michael Ambrose, tell him A2D sent you, get yourself 20% off. Gutter guards, gutter restoration, deck restoration, anything you need done outside your house, they got you covered. That's AMBUCKServices.com, AMBUCK And the poll question today, the Eagles should trade Zach Ertz and a first-round pick for Jamal Adams. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. Would you guys stop it? Zach Ertz, right? You're gonna trade the commodity away, right? I get it. Like you need to have something for them to grab on, and we're being thrown in these talks, but I can't. I can't with this one. I wouldn't be more inclined to throw a package of picks just because listen. How often do you get hits on your picks? As far as what is going on with this team right now, it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. It's more miss than hit. You've hit on a guy like Zach Ertz. He is a commodity. I get that, but at this point in time, wouldn't you rather give up? If that's the way, wouldn't you package up? Bennett, one of the other corners like Razul, or even as much as I like Mills. And the possibility of what he could do back there, obviously, it would make more sense to package something up like that than Zach Ertz. It's a no for me. I would rather go heavier on the pick side and keep the guy in Zach Ertz. I think if you're putting a gun to my head, if you're saying one of those two are going, I would say Goddard before Ertz, regardless of the contract situation, regardless of Zach being prone to having nagging injuries. He is a leader in the locker room, regardless if fans want to kind of break up the marriage that is there between Ertz and Wentz. I get it. I do. But at the same time, you have to look at what's moving forward. You want to continue to have this great culture that you have on the offense with them two guys. Mm-hmm. So I get where people are coming from because you want to make this thing happen. Having Adams on this team infinitely makes the back end of that secondary better. I think on this defense, probably wouldn't even be in the secondary. Probably would wind up being more of a linebacker situation. So I don't know how that really plays out. We have other needs. It's really questionable, in my opinion, for them to make that trade for a one in Ertz.
Mm-hmm. I think at least with me personally, I'm going to disagree to the poll. Not to trading Zach Ertz, but just trading Zach Ertz and a first-round pick. If it was me, I would personally trade Zach Ertz and a second-round pick. I'm fine, but if we have to, because you're getting arguably one of the top three safeties in football and arguably one of the best players in football. He's only been playing in the NFL for 2 to 3 seasons, and he's already an All-Pro. Obviously, Malcolm Jenkins' departure this offseason. So you're getting a clear upgrade in that department. You're getting a leader. You're getting a guy who can play all over the field on defense. And I said it on Jimmy's show last night from On the Road to Victory, is that the Eagles right now, I don't consider them a top 10 defense. They're right there. They're not a top 10 defense, but I think, honestly, if you get Jamal Adams, you could possibly even squeeze into that top 5 just because of the versatility and what he adds to the defense. And obviously with Jim Schwartz's defense, he looks for guys that are versatile and can play a bunch of different positions on the defense. We saw when he had Malcolm here, he had him play linebacker, had him play nickel, a little corner here, back in his natural safety position. So there's just so many positives with with getting Jamal Adams. Obviously, I know Zach Ertz is a clear commodity for the Eagles. But again, you have a young guy waiting in the wings in Dallas Goedert who showed he can play as well as block. But but I understand the people that don't want to get rid of Zach Ertz. But you have to understand this too. He's getting older. I think he is 30 or is just about to turn 30. So obviously he's not okay. So he's about to turn 30. But obviously he's not in the prime of his career. You don't expect him to eclipse what he had in 2018 with that record-setting catches for a tight end in one season. Obviously, he's still a top 3 tight end in football, but how I look at it right now, his contract's going to be coming up soon. People were stressing last night on Jimmy's show that we're going to be $50 million over the cap, and Zach Ertz is going to need a new contract. But it's really tough. But I think with me, I would do the move for Jamal Adams. And also, I forgot to mention, Jamal Adams isn't due for another contract for another 2 seasons, so we have plenty of time to figure that out. But with me, I would make the trade for Jamal Adams, not for Zach Ertz and a first-round pick. If it's Zach Ertz in a second, okay, then we're having a conversation. But I really would like Jamal Adams on this defense.
I'm with you with wanting him on the defense, but not at the price of Zach Ertz at this point in time. I get where everyone's coming from, but like I was saying, like how often do you have these proven commodities? We don't get them that often, especially through the draft, right? We have to go and trade like this. Like this is typically how we get these type of players, because we're not at the best of at drafting these talents for whatever reason it is.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on defense, you need that playmaker on defense. This is somebody that me myself, I've been asking for somebody like this. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's not going to be at the expense of Zach Ertz. I'm telling you that right now. It's going to be at the expense of somebody on that defense, like a Jalen Mills, like a Rasul Douglas, like a Derek Barnett, mm-hmm. where you might have being able to afford to lose a guy like that to get a guy like Adams who might counteract whatever you lose there. You're not going to replace whatever you lose in Zach Ertz with Jamal Adams. And with still some of that uncertainty going on that defense, especially with the offensive line, it makes absolutely no sense to put Zach Ertz into that trade.
Okay.
He's gonna need his safety valves, both of them, both Goddard and Ertz this season, regardless of what anyone thinks. I don't think either one of those two should be involved in this conversation, or anyone on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay. Let's get to the comments real quick. Patrick O'Brien says, I don't trade Ertz until we see all the wide receivers they drafted. I give up next year's 1 and the following year's 2nd-round pick. I wouldn't be against that either. Hector Ortiz also says, but why a 1st-round pick? I don't get it. That's stupid. I'll trade Ertz for Adams, and that's it. Well, you're not getting. It's not going to work because you're getting an All-Pro caliber player who's not. I don't even think he's 24 yet. So, and just what he can add to the defense, it's astronomical what he would add to the defense.
He's another quarterback on the.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna wreak havoc back there. He's gonna cause problems. Yeah. Where it's kind of what we've been waiting for from a guy like Rasul Douglas, a guy that goes up and makes a play at the ball. And that's something he's going to bring to this defense, and something that the back end of it sorely needs. Yeah. So when you bring in a guy like Slay and then you make a move, like I said, it's probably going to be one of our fan favorites on the defense to make that happen. And regardless if it takes a second this year and a future one or whatever, as long as we get to keep those other pieces on offense intact, and as we're saying, I wouldn't agree unless you know what you're getting from these young wide receivers. I wouldn't mention anyone on offense, and that's why I said it. It's probably going to have to be a member of that defense that's going to have to go. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be anyone like Graham, Cox, Malik Jackson. Those guys are the guys up on that front line, with the exception, like I said, of Derek Barnett. Probably the only one who's probably expendable. Like maybe you try to flash a guy like Josh Sweat at him or something like that to kind of pique their interest that way. But you also have to give the Jets fair compensation to get back too.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yep.
They're saying that just throw Ertz in a second. It's kind of the crutch that a lot of us Eagles fans throw when we get these scenarios with some of these guys. We had it a few years ago when the Honey Badger went up on the market, and
Yep.
all of us wanted him. We all wanted him, right? So
here we are in Kansas City.
And we're having the same name being thrown at him. I get it. He's the guy. He's probably the losable commodity because we have Goddard. It's not going to happen, guys. It's not. Not with Zach Ertz.
Brandon Beal has a good comment. He says, trading Zach Ertz is literally trading away Carson's best friend and safety valve. You know how many dead plays that'll leave us with? One dead drive can cost us the season. Not to mention our leading receiver for how many years now. I say, let's see how this Wallace kid shapes up, and as much space Slay frees up on his side. So yeah, I get what you're saying, Brandon. I really get what you're saying. But it's one of those things where, maybe it's just me because of how high I am on Dallas Goedert and how high I've been on Dallas Goedert since we drafted him out of South Dakota. But I just see a really, really high ceiling for Dallas Goedert. I think I'm not going to say he's a better tight end right now than Zach Ertz because that's just ridiculous. But he's a more complete tight end than Zach Ertz because he can block, he can catch, he can run routes. Because if anyone has went to Eagles games and you see when they run 12 personnel, you see Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert running. It's almost identical to see when you see the run routes. Obviously, Ertz is more crisp with his routes, but he's also been in the league longer. So
yeah, that comes with experience. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So and I said it when we drafted him. I really think, and this is just my personal opinion, I really think he can be just as good or possibly even better than Zach Ertz. That's just how I feel. People can call me crazy or whatever, but
have those qualities where he could be the better tight end than Zach Ertz. I'm not sitting there saying that. I'm just looking at how they go about things, how they value guys inside their organization, what it's going to take to make the trade happen. And what is being proposed is absolutely ridiculous. It's not that's not the trade that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm wrong, fine. I'll come back on here and you guys can chew me out and tell me I'm more. Fine. I would say you would have a more likely opportunity to go into data supermodel, any one of us right now, than making that trade happen. That's not going to be the one that's going to be.
Yeah, and we all know how Howie rolls. It's not going to be. Howie's usually not done until August when he's finishing up, like getting the whole team together. Brian has a good comment. I'd trade Zach Ertz in a second for Jamal Adams and a fourth. Perkins would be a viable number 2 tight end, but of course it won't happen. But I promise you, Goddard as a number 1 would catch 100 for 8 touchdowns. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I really think he can be. I really think he's a special player, and we've seen little glimpses. You saw just look back at the tape for his rookie year when he played against Dallas. He killed Dallas, but that 75-yard touchdown call back, but that's neither here nor there. But you see the ability that this kid has. Yeah. Yeah, I just
that garbage.
Yeah. Todd Womack, Philly Dilly guys. What's up? What's up, Todd? But it's just one of those things where I really think, and people stress that Eagles are, and I see Jesse's comment. I see you, Jesse. Eagles are going to be over $50 million on the cap. But I don't really worry about the cap anymore just because one thing I can trust with Howie Roseman is he'll figure that out. He'll get all that figured out himself. That I'm not worried about at all. But again, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. But I would just really love to have Jamal Adams. That's just me. Brian Daly says from the Hockey Happy Hour, Jake, you know where I stand. It's not that I don't want Adams. It's that I think we needs to be addressed bigger holes that we have. No, I get it. I get it, Brian. I get it. But it's just one of those things where he just adds such a major dimension to the defense where he can be versatile. He's not just a safety. He can play corner if he needs to for a couple snaps. He can play nickel. He can play all over the defense, really. Obviously, minus defensive end and D-line, but it's just one of those things where you're getting arguably a top 3 safety in all of football. Top 3, top 5 safety in all of football. And when you add, and we all know as Eagles fans, like how much we value the safety positions ever since Dawkins was here. Everybody knows how much we value it. Ted FX, what's up, Ted? Ertz is a future Hall of Famer. He's instantly clutch, one of the most clutch Eagles ever. I don't get everyone clamoring to trade.
We can make the argument that sometimes here's been clutch too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get Ertz has been clutching. Like I said, as much as I'm sitting there saying it's not going to happen. Zach isn't more clutch than Goddard even right now. I think they're like you're saying, where they're kind of both on that plane. It's just right now Zach is kind of the more polished career. He's the veteran exception.
Mm-hmm.
Give him body work, it'll probably be the same, if not, Dallas being the better player.
Mm-hmm. Brian Bailu, I'm sorry if I screwed up your last name. Mills could very well be a huge. Yeah, he could be, but that's why they signed him to a 1-year deal. And we also have a bunch of safeties that we did bring in Kayvon Wallace, and it's really going to be interesting to see how that safety spot goes. Because obviously, if the number 2 spot doesn't work out with Darius Slay, you can plug in Jalen Mills back at the number 2. So it's really going to be interesting to see just how this defense really does turn out, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't look like we're going to have baseball this year. But at this point, if we don't have football, then
we're approaching dangerous times, man. Because people want to be stupid, people didn't want to listen. Like we've all spoken about it. Like, listen, we all have our own feels and thoughts on it. But listen, when it came down time to it, all of us were listening to protocols to be cautious at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And now we're looking at a situation where people being reckless, people doing whatever they want to do. We've seen Ezekiel Elliott paid the price this week. He got the COVID as well. But that's what you get for going out partying and doing this, that, and the third, and thinking you're everything. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, he's going to be ready for the regular season. He's a professional athlete. He's in good condition. But it's more of I think along the lines of the well-being for everyone else that you don't want to put anyone else in risk. And it's at the end of the day going to slow things down and grind things down to a halt where we were just about to get everything situated to starting the process of giving everything back to where we needed to be. And now we're going to have to go back, wait, sit down there and refigure everything else out because what's happened over the last 3 to 5 days.
Yeah. Ralphie, can you go back up to Todd's comment real quick? You had a good one. Thank you. There are a lot of pros and cons to this. Yes, Ertz wants a new contract, but he's getting older. Dallas is young and up and coming, but Adams wants a new contract as well, and we are already in a bad cap situation. Yeah, but again, Todd, and I told everyone this yesterday on the road to victory, that Jamal Adams, he still has 2 years left on his contract. Obviously, we can figure that out down the road, but it's one of those things where you say if the trade does happen theoretically, the Eagles would have more leverage than Jamal Adams would. Same thing with the Jets, though, too. Same thing with the Jets. They have more leverage because he's still under contract for 2 more years, and you could sign him to a franchise tag even after those 2 years. But it's one of those things where there's so many, and Todd said it perfectly. There's a bunch of pros and there's a bunch of cons to it. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's pick your poison, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I just think he strengthens it, but like I said, it's not at that cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not at the cost of Zach Ertz at this point in time. I know, like everyone's like, it's kind of like I said, he's the one kind of thing you figure we can live without because tight ends right now. Like granted, he's arguably top 3, 4 tight ends in the league.
Yeah,
depending on who you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
His production hasn't kind of decreased. He's kind of stayed right where he's at. When given healthy, when everything's kind of moving the way it's supposed to be. So I get it, but it's one of these things where, like I said, that I think you should kind of address other things.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like I said, or pull from other areas to like I would just give them a pick package.
Yeah.
Let's not give up anyone else on our team and just give them a pick package.
Yep.
Whatever, like if it's a 2 this year, a 3 next year, and a 1 freaking 3 years from there.
Mm-hmm.
then we could still have this window of still kind of build this team and not lose too much. I really don't want to give up anyone on this team, especially a guy like Zach. And even
no, and understandably so.
I don't
Absolutely.
want them guys either. I would like to see Derek Barnett continue to develop and be an Eagle. I would like to see Rasul Douglas get a chance to get more reps. I would like to see Jalen Mills get a chance to prove that he can be a safety on this team and in this league. But when you have an opportunity to grab a guy like Jamal, you have to take the opportunity to. You have to at least throw your hat in the ring and say, hey, this is what we're going to do.
Yep.
You have to go all in on to the point where you lost something on defense over the last 2 to 3 seasons. But both up front, both the linebacker, both in the back end of the secondary. Yes, you brought in Darius Slay. You have some young guys there, but you still you need that playmaker. You don't have a playmaker that runs around on that field yet.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Eileen has a good comment too. The war of sports is going on currently. Do you think the NFL season will start on time or at all? I think, Eileen, how the NFL is really doing it, they're at a really good position. And what I mean by that is they're kind of just going by what everyone else is doing, and plus they have plenty of time. They don't really have to do anything. Obviously, training camp will be starting soon, but they don't really have to do anything per se till like August. Like, obviously, they're going to figure out training camp, whatever that may be. Players can train at their own facilities or go to like the gym by wherever they live or whatever and work with their trainers. That's fine. But and I said it last night. It's who it's really going to hurt more than anybody. It's going to hurt these young rookies, and I'm not just talking about the Eagles. It's going to be around the entire league. And you have new coaches, especially in the NFC East, where 3 out of the 4 coaches, they're all brand new. Obviously, Ron Rivera's experience, Mike McCarthy's experience. But again, you need that training camp to implement your offense, your defense, and your game plans and stuff like that. So it's really going to be interesting. And I think that's where the Eagles have a major advantage to where Doug Peterson has basically just been he's still here. That's pretty much what I mean. It's just one of those things where the Eagles are at an advantage at that point. But getting back to what I was saying earlier with the rookies, they're just at a major, major disadvantage. And it's unfortunate. Well, obviously, like you have your CD Lambs of the world with Dallas, who's highly touted, and Jalen Reagor, who obviously I've flipped the script on him. I wasn't really high on the pick, and then after kind of diving into that a little bit, I kind of liked it a little more. But again,
we want some mega bombs in Philly. Let's go.
Jamal Adams is out of the question. He'll probably go to Houston since they have the cap room. I bet. Yeah, I mean, Bill O'Brien's just picks, but
they still have to. They're gonna pay Watson before they go and make a trade for a guy like that.
If anything, and this is just my opinion, I think the 49ers are going to make a run at Jamal Adams. That's just me.
I think he winds up somewhere else.
Where do you think he winds up?
I mean, I can't really sit there and off the top of my head say. I still think, as much as we don't want to admit it, Dallas is more in play than we are. As much as we want to sit there and say that we are, I wouldn't be surprised a team like Arizona, because how much on an uptrend they are right now. You got a guy like Kyler Murray over there. You have something that'll entice him to go there. That wide receivers that they have there was looking real nice, and that defense wasn't bad. And you put Chandler Jones on the same defense, and you get some opportunities with Jamal Adams. That could be interesting too.
Yep. Ted FX has a pretty good comment about Joe Burrow, my guy. Joe Burrow is probably the only quarterback who won't be behind. He's going to be really good. So here's my thing. Obviously, as everyone knows, I'm a big-time LSU fan. But here's the thing with Joe. I love Joe. I really do think he's going to have a great career in the NFL. But you have to see what he had at LSU. His offense was loaded. And I mean loaded from top to bottom. It was a loaded offense. And obviously with the Bengals, they're not a loaded offense. But you're going to see growing pains. And obviously with every quarterback and any player or any rookie that comes into the league, you're going to have growing pains. You're going to have mess ups and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to – obviously he's not going to be Joe Burrow of last year where he was just dominating people. But I really think that he's going to be he's going to be a very, very good quarterback for a long time, and the Bengals got a good one. And I'll say that. I'll defend Joe till Obviously, he doesn't do well, but like Tom did with Baker, and Baker's just we know that whole story. So, Taylor Bowers also asked, "You guys think we're making the playoffs?" No doubt. Question mark. I feel we're being slept on. I think we get in easily. Now, I won't say easily, Tyler, just because I don't want that jinx on my shoulder. I don't want that evil on me. But no, and like I said earlier, the Eagles are at an advantage right now to where their head coach is still there. The coaching staff is pretty much the same. So nothing much aside from new acquisitions and new players that we've gotten in here.
Like,
Nothing.
like I was saying, I was sitting there saying your biggest thing is don't expect anything from the young guys until midway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
Week 8, you'll start seeing them making more and more contributions. That's probably your biggest thing, where you'll probably be more accustomed to seeing them making a little bit more impact earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that we're going to get it now.
Yep.
Is that we're get pushed back. It's gonna be a little bit delayed. It's gonna,
Yep.
like you're even hearing in Doug Peterson's voice that Jalen Reagor's only gonna be learning one position. Where normally give them the whole thing. He's like, nope, you're gonna do one thing. I want you to do this. Let's get this down pat first, and then as the season will move on, he'll probably work on other things.
Yeah.
But that's you want to get him doing the one thing you want him to do best first, and then they're gonna. That's what you're gonna start seeing. Like, let's simplify. What do we need out of you first? That's what you're gonna start seeing out of them. They're gonna break it down to where this guy we can make this guy the most impact on this team this season with what we got. That's what you're gonna see.
Yeah. Ted also says, you know how the lights turn on for people, Aguilar with Wentz. You think Burrow turns the light on with Ross the Speedster for see, my thing is like he's just another hamstring injury away from being done for the season. I like John Ross. I was never like a huge fan of him. Like my issue is, and Chucks can attest to this as well, is that people pay too much attention to the 40 time. And that's my issue with the combine. People pay way too much attention to the 40 time at the combine, and they don't. I mean, obviously they'll pay attention to the production, but they put way too much stock into the 40 time, and that's just personally my opinion. Brian also says he had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrence Marshall Jr., who will be the best. Who will be the best of the three? Yeah, no, yeah. Brian, I think you're right on that. Obviously, I'm a big Jamar Chase guy, and Terrence Marshall is really looking to be one of the top players for LSU. Maybe it's not this year, depending on obviously if we have a season or not. But and he says, in my opinion, and Moss plus a top 10 O-line. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He was at a major advantage to where if he struggled with that team, then there's a whole other issue. But Joe does have all the tools. He's a hard worker. He's a great kid. But you're just going to see growing pains. It's that you're not going to see the Joe Burrow last year, like I touched on earlier. But he's going to be.
I mean, very good. There's always a learning curve. It's not like I said. Some guys peak real early. Sometimes you get spurts, and some guys progressively get better. Like I remember like when it was like almost a thing to just kind of throw them to the wolves. Like it was like, you got to let them go through the growing pains. They have to go in through the 6 and 10 seasons and stuff like that. Yep. Now it's more common to kind of pull back on the reins and just let them kind of develop at their own rate. And when they're ready to get in there, we've also seen the cases where you have like the Aaron Rodgers of the world, where you're gonna learn behind the old guy, and then we're gonna phase him out and bring you in. Yep. So there's different ways of going about it with different quarterback talents, and I think we're just interested to see how these next few classes kind of play out. Yep. I know everyone bangs on the Dak and Wentz drum, and you get the Mahomes stuff now, and we're getting into with all the quarterbacks that are coming out, we're going to see this class. What's going on with Tua and Burrow and stuff like that. So
yep.
We got to see how these organizations play their hands with their young talent.
Yeah,
we got ourselves one Super Bowl, regardless if it got mixed up at the end there, and our quarterback didn't actually play the game. But we're in an interesting time with the young talent at quarterback, both
Yep.
You know, the classic drop back to your multifaceted running gun, and actually some of these guys who are your classic running quarterbacks aren't that bad in the pocket either anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things where
I remember Lamar Jackson, like after his rookie season, they basically said, like, "Oh, his arm is terrible." Look what happened last season.
it got better, but and I tell people this all the time, and I tell people this even since Lamar's rookie year. Once he learns how to consistently stay in the pocket and not use his legs enough, or not use his legs as much to extend his career, if he can learn to actually be like a not a complete pocket quarterback, because that's just not who Lamar is.
Complete quarterback, not the complete pocket. You have
Right.
to. If you can get mix of both of them, which
Yeah.
is also kind of what Patrick Mahomes has kind of done, where it not the running quarterback, but he able to move the pocket and kind of bend it to your will. If you can be that quarterback, you are elite and in this league right now, and you're able to do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of the defense has to play to your game instead of you play to the defense's game.
Ted also has one more question. Not to turn this into a Bengals talk show, but do you think Burrow has a rookie year like Matt Ryan or Wentz? I think so, just because obviously with Wentz, like you saw flashes here and there, and obviously you saw the inconsistencies. But I think that's really how it's going to go for Joe. It's going to be one of those welcome to the NFL kind of moments for Joe.
Yeah.
And just knowing how Joe is just as a person and as a player, he'll grow from it, he'll learn from it. And I think typically it's all about that second year for a lot of quarterbacks. It's what that transition that you make from your first year to your second year. That's what I'm really paying attention to. But it also depends on as well, can the Bengals actually build a cohesive unit around Joe? And that's going to be the major question these next handful of years.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, they've had so many opportunities and been there so many times, even through the Carson Palmer years, and then your Andy Dalton. They had good teams. They just couldn't put everything back together. Like, you have to get the quarterback, and then inside those 5 years you have him after you drafted him, also get everything else so you don't wind up in this cap situation.
Yep. Now, obviously, moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome our special guest, former son of famous Hall of Fame boxer Robert Duran Jr.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Rob?
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Good. How you doing?
Hey,
All right.
how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. We're here in Florida, really hot. really, really hot. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, y'all got that dry heat down there. It's different.
Nah, man. It's something different right now.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, Rob, we really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
So let's get into it. What was it like growing up watching your father just during his fights, and tell me like your favorite moments as a kid watching him fight?
So with that, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Me and my pops really didn't grow up like that together. We were distant, but the times that I did watch him and spend time with him, I've seen him train here and there. It was just something amazing, just knowing that my dad was, big in boxing, and watching him train is what influenced me.
Okay.
It's just runs in the blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, you're trying to develop your own boxing career of your own, kind of just obviously you're under your father's shadow, and you want to kind of just develop yourself and have a name for yourself.
Right.
Obviously, aside from your father growing up, who did you really idolize and look up to, like you kind of just emulate your style from?
Man, there's a lot of old fighters that I really looked up to, that I watched, really old fighters like Nicolino Luce. James Toney was one of my favorite fighters,
Okay.
James Toney, there's a lot of guys right now, Kell Brook, Andre Ward, just Roy Jones Jr., Vinny Paz, a whole bunch of guys.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually funny that you mentioned Vinny Paz, because we actually had him on last week, and he was complimenting your father and talking about that fight specifically back in '94. He said your father was one of the hardest hitting fighters that he's ever won against. Now, I do have to ask you a question, Rob. Do you think you have a harder punch than your dad?
You know, I've been asked that question before, and like I answered it before. I'm gonna tell you guys the same thing, man. I think I do. You know,
Okay.
I really do, because you know, it's my punching power is just on another level. You know, I get it from him, and then I just maximized it. You know, however you want to call it, through the training, through everything. I really do think I hit harder than my dad.
That's awesome. But obviously, talking to your training a little bit, obviously we've been seeing a little bit of increase in COVID-19 cases over in Florida. If you guys are making adjustments, what kind of adjustments are you making, and how are you adapting to everything that's going on with the COVID-19 situation in Florida?
I mean, with me, I keep my distance. You know, I go to I go to the gym, I train, I do what I need to do, and I head back home. You know, I stay out of populated areas. I don't really get involved in crowds like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that type of person. You know, my focus is on training and ready to get in the ring any minute. So, you know, I've been keeping safe with that. So that's been a big part of it for me.
That's awesome. Steve, what do you have for Rob?
Well, I got a bunch of stuff, man. Obviously, me and you have been talking for a few years on social media, so again, thanks for the time. A lot of stuff's been going on in combat sports a lot lately.
Most definitely.
You see a lot of stuff, the heavyweight stuff. And I've always been sitting there saying, like, I kind of feel like boxing's kind of falling behind on the belt and stars. Do you kind of feel this way that over maybe the past 10, 15 years, you've been seeing a lot of combat sport fighters who probably should have been boxers wind up flowing over to other things, your wrestling, your UFC type stuff.
I don't know. I mean, you know, people do what they want to do at the end of the day, you know, but I think that if you're a boxer, man, stay as a boxer. You know, you don't need to jump from one combat sport to the other combat sport. You know, you don't need to go from MMA to boxing. You know, I don't see the point in that. You know, my profession is boxing. I'm gonna stick with it. You know, that's just how I look at it. But we're in a new era. You know, people do new things, and
Yeah.
you know, that's what it is now for certain people.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, like, you're starting to see a lot more of our combat sports athletes speaking up about disparity in pay, man. Like it's kind of weird. Like, we're still kind of talking about this thing where some of the female athletes don't get the respect they love they deserve, and even more so, even a lot of you guys who kind of earn your spot in the sport, unless you're in line with the right people, you guys don't really get what you're supposed to get.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
What do you see, like, when you see guys like John Jones, and I've even just seen Amanda Serrano basically go out there and say that Kate Taylor fight is not happening as of that last contract offer that she got. What do you think about moving forward? Like a lot of people speaking up about this. Do you think it'll kind of invoke a change in how things go with that?
I really couldn't hear you. You were breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I was just like, what are your thoughts on, like, kind of getting that change in as far as getting the fighters what they really deserve? Where you're not having to play the negotiation through social media tactics.
You know, it depends on promoters, managers. It deals with a lot of people. And the fighter's always got a voice. He's the one in the ring taking the hits, the training through everything. Something's got to be done about that. But if we don't say nothing, nobody's ever gonna do nothing about it. With women boxing, women, they train just as hard as men do. They're in the gym 24 hours. They do what they got to do. They train and they fight just as hard as us. So they should get the same respect that us men as fighters get in the ring. It's all equal for all of us. All fighters should deserve the same respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of rough. Where like I know a lot of people are like, oh, you hear Dana White saying there, people are crazy because of the pandemic. No, people are crazy because they're sick of getting sitting there saying this is what you're going to get, take it or leave it. That's why people are crazy.
Yeah, most definitely, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if we're talking about boxers, MMA fighters, or we're talking about John Paul and Larry who wants to get what they deserve at the company they've been busting their butt. So it's one of these interesting things now. Like we're talking about the sport, and a lot of politics go into boxing. Robert, we were just talking about building stars. Now, in a perfect world, all the politics put aside, you're able to kind of put together any fight that you would want. What would be the fight that you would put together? Kind of like let's say you're the promoter, Robert, and you get to make the fight, champion belt, whatever. Who are you putting together to fight on this card?
I mean, if I was a promoter, man, I'll try to line it up one of the best cards. Give people the entertaining fights that they want to see. But what I really think about is like people who deserve those shots. Like those fighters that have been training all year, that have been fighting all year. That they're busting, their butts in the gym. That been overlooked. Those are the dudes that I would think would make the card, and then those that been climbing the ranks, you know, like okay, the number one contenders, real fighters, fighting real fighters, not cherry picking or none of that. Those would be the guys that I would put in there to fight, and go for a title. If I was my own promoter, I promote myself, to the fullest, but I wouldn't like, how do you say it, skip myself to the finish line because then I wouldn't win nothing with that. You know, I'd be one of those dudes that climb the ladder just with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean
That's just
that's one of the things I like about you. You don't want to make your name off of it, like I've seen interviews where you're like I don't want to make my name off my dad. I want I
of
want
course
I
not.
want I want my star to shine because of me, not
Exactly,
because.
exactly. I tell that to everybody. I'm not here because my dad's a famous fighter. I could just do it because off of the name. That's not me. That's not my motive. I do it because number one, I was born to fight. It's in my blood. I wasn't here before due to some certain issues, but I'm here now. It's better late than never. And like I tell every other interviewer, like man, this is my time to shine.
Yes,
My
sir.
dad did what he did. Now it's my turn to do what I need to do. Whether people like it or not, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna box. And people gonna want to watch me, regardless of what the deal is. I'm gonna make my own name, walk my own path.
That I love talking about too, because there's a big difference between a boxer and a fighter. If you
Yeah,
can
most
find
definitely. I'm sorry, you
I
cut
think
out
you cut
again,
out a
man.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You got
and as you touched on something about like you're born to be a fighter, man. But me, it's something I always talk about. If you can ever put the two together, if you can find the fighter that's got that dog in him,
Oh
and the guy
yeah, yeah.
that's the boxer, that's a dangerous man.
Oh,
That's
most definitely, most definitely. Those type of fighters. They got a fire in them that just burns and will always burn and it will never be put out. I'm one of those fighters. The reason why I say that is because I didn't grow up with my father. You know what I'm saying? I don't cry about it. It is what it is. I'm a grown ass man, and that's just I'm one of those fighters that I'm a boxer. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. Whatever it is, whatever deal it is that I got to go through to get to the next level is I'm gonna do it.
Hmm.
Like when I got into boxing, I figured at the beginning I thought it would be easy for me to get fights because of my name,
yeah,
but then being that it doesn't work like that all the time, as
Hmm.
with me, I'm speaking about me. Yeah, it's been rough. The beginning of my career was a little rough, but things picked up and things are great now.
Hmm.
and
Now,
sometimes.
obviously,
Go ahead, Jake.
okay. So obviously, we have one of the comments from Kevin Godwin. He asked, contract and money aside, who is your dream fight with?
That's a good question, man. I don't know, man. There's a lot of guys out there, because the thing is with me, I wanna move down to 140 because I
Okay.
fight at 147, so I want to move down to 140. Whoever's holding a title at 140 and then move up to 147, and whoever's holding a title at 147. I want to make something. I want to make something big. I want to make something happen. Like I want to make people be like, damn, I didn't think he could do it, but he did it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
my dream fight is with any fighter at that weight class. When I get to that level, whoever's holding the title is what it is. Whoever it is that's the deal.
I like that
Mhm.
answer. What were you saying, Steve?
Like yeah, like it's one of the things. Like he's sitting there saying like you got here late. Like listen, I say this all the time, Robert, that I don't think like when we're talking about professional athletes, like you don't really fully develop both your game and your mentality on how to conduct yourself as a professional. So you about like 28 to 32 is like right when you hit that clarity to kind of put it all together. You kind of agree with that too?
Say again. I'm sorry.
I said, you said you got into it late, and I always say that I think that the athlete doesn't really put it all together until about 28, 32, especially in combat sports.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Where you don't get to put it together until around that time.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like me, like it's like I tell, age is really not a factor in combat sports. You know, if you take care of yourself, you know you're an athlete, especially a fighter. You know, you take care of yourself properly, the correct way, then age shouldn't matter. Look at Pacquiao; he's damn near 40, and look how he's still moving. That dude is still fast, he's still strong, and he can still go 12 rounds nonstop. Same thing with Mayweather. You know, it depends on you on how you take care of yourself. You know what I mean? You can't expect to perform at 100% if you don't take care of yourself, and you're already late in age. You know, it doesn't work like that. You know, I take care of myself. I eat well. I train hard twice a day, maybe 3 times a day, depending how I feel. And then when I go in that ring, it's like my prime is now. You know, so my prime is now. Is just that's how it goes, man.
Yeah.
You know, I feel a whole lot better.
I mean, the age thing really doesn't matter anymore. I mean, we've seen how late Bernard on his career. Look at Tom Brady.
Oh yeah,
he's in his 40s. It's crazy. Like, and then even look at what Mike Tyson's doing right now. Yeah, he's 50 plus, and he's fighting. He looks in better shape now than almost when he was in his 20s. It's crazy.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Now, to your question,
his mind is even better.
Now, to the
that mental.
Oh, sorry. You can continue.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay. I was just gonna say that it's just you have that mental focus, man. You can keep going and do whatever you want. You know.
Now, obviously, Rob, do you think, obviously talking about Mike Tyson, do you think he could come back possibly for a professional fight, or do you see him more as like just kind of like a charity event?
Nah, I mean, I see Mike as he can do charity events, exhibitions and stuff like that. But as in a serious fight, see right there, he's gonna have to pick somebody not on a big level for him, because he's 50, man. You can't really expect the old Mike Tyson to come out of him.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Mike Tyson's always gonna be Mike Tyson. He was a monster then, but age, he's really deep in age right now. He's 50. Yep. He's great. I mean, he looks great. He's training amazing, but you can't expect him to perform.
It's different when you get in the ring, man.
Yeah, most definitely. You can't expect him to perform how he did 20 years ago. 20, 25 years ago.
Like 4 2-minute rounds, he might look really good.
If you give him 1 round, 2 minutes, like an amateur bout, then he might do something. He'll get him out of there real fast.
Yeah.
Well, I think Vinny was sitting there. He's like, man, that man's too high to be doing that stuff.
Oh no, I love Vinny to death. I know Vinny. Vinny used to train me a couple of months ago. Me and Vinny were close. Yeah, Vinny was in my corner for about 2 or 3 of my fights. He's just an amazing guy, and then the stories he would just tell me about my pops and him is just on another level. It's hilarious, man. He's a great guy.
What was the funniest thing he ever told you about your dad that you never knew?
One thing was, he told me the story when he was in that fight when my dad hit him with the right hand and he dropped him. He said he's never been hit so hard like that. Like 1 minute he's trying to hit him with a right hand. The next second he's on the canvas. So he gets up, walks to the corner, and he got his friend sitting in the corner. His friend is telling him, "Hey, get back in there, fight the ring." He's like, "No, how about you get in this ring and fight him?" And see how hard he just hit me. That was hilarious when he always tells me the same story every time.
We have a comment.
Vinny has.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a comment from Michael Kromiak. He has a question for you, Rob. As a professional fighter who has worked his way up the ranks, what are your thoughts on Conor McGregor stepping into the ring with Floyd with no boxing experience?
See, that's like what we spoke about earlier. if your profession is MMA, stay in MMA.
Mm-hmm.
In MMA, you throw kicks, slams, elbows. You can't do that in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
I train. I know a lot of MMA guys. I train with MMA guys too. It's, the technique and footwork is different from
Mm-hmm.
boxing and MMA. So when you eliminate a MMA fighter's kicks and elbows and stuff like that, they fight different.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got certain MMA fighters that aren't really too big on striking. So that plays a big part in their fighting style.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole Mayweather and Conor McGregor fight, I really didn't respect that at all, man. It was just a money thing to me. That's
Oh,
how I looked at it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That was just an
It was
exhibition money
respectable.
fight.
It is exactly what it is. It was respectable. There was nothing wrong with it. It was like they hold each other out. It was fun stuff to watch. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's all it was to me. Two guys calling each other out. I'm the best in this. I'm the best in that.
Mm-hmm.
If I did boxing, I'd do it better than you.
If
But
they were really real about it, they probably should have had two different fights, one in each different sport, and then had it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If they was going to be real about it, right?
yeah, most definitely. But it was all a money thing. It was all about
absolutely.
money. That's all it is.
It was fun. And if you really ask me, it kind of gave boxing more back than it did MMA, because boxing's been having problems with getting people to watch it outside of the big guys, like I've been saying. That's why I can't wait for you to kind of get some of these opportunities that you've been kind of banging on the door to get, because we haven't really had big stars in these lower weight classes. I mean, I think like Danny Garcia has been one here in Philadelphia that we've had. Like, you haven't really had those big name boxers because you haven't had those fun era defining fights that we used to have. Like when we had Trinidad and Oscar. We haven't had those fights.
I agree with you. It's like you guys were saying earlier. The opportunity these guys should be getting that deserve those fights.
Mm-hmm.
Because those guys that don't get those opportunities, those were the ones to put on a show for people. Those are the ones that give people that, oh my God, that's a fight. That's a fight right there. That's a boxing match right there. That's what makes people want to come back into boxing. Are those memorable fights you can lead to the crowd? You know what I mean?
Yep.
But no, you were gonna say
your favorite matches of all time as far as boxing goes. Like you said, a lot of guys influenced your style and stuff like that. Like, what are some of your most memorable matches that you felt that you've been able to be either personally a part of, or some of your all-time favorites?
I mean, I'm only 6 fights into my career, but one I had 2 fights that I really enjoyed being in. It was with this undefeated kid. He was 3-0, and then being in the ring with him was a whole different experience, because he was experienced. He was undefeated. He knew exactly what he was in there doing. So it was like a chess game.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a chess fight than it was an actual fight. So I learned a lot from that fight, and I was able to win that fight too.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another fight too, my one loss that I have, which I shouldn't have, but I don't cry over spilled milk, man. It is what it is. The dude was a lot bigger than me, heavier in size. He was brought down from like 2 weight divisions. He was brought down from middleweight. But what that fight that fight showed me that I can stand toe to toe with a heavy guy. That fought taught me that I have a chin. I can take a punch from a lot bigger guy. And that fight taught me that I'm physically strong, mentally as well as physically. It taught me. Those fights really taught me something. And when you get into fights like that, it makes you a better fighter and much more better for the next fight.
Mm-hmm. Now, Greg has a question for you as well. Do you think boxing is coming back before the 4 major sports, even without fans, allows the opportunity for fans to come back to watching boxing as a fan?
I don't know. That's a little difficult, man. Me if I was not a fighter but a boxing fan, I would like to be there, ringside.
Mm-hmm.
A boxing, any combat sport, deserves a crowd. With all those fans that enjoy the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just the fighters themselves in there, it's really not boxing. If it's just the 2 guys in there,
Yep.
Everything about boxing is everything. the ring, the two fighters, your corner, the crowd. You know, that's what makes a boxing fight. Not just the two fighters, everything around you. You know. You know, I prefer a crowd. You know,
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
people cheering you on, or if they're booing you, it doesn't matter. Just people going crazy. You know,
Just that energy. Yep.
that's exactly that energy makes you want to fight even more and fight even harder. You know, it's difficult not to have that, and you know, not to hear the crowd or people, you know, rooting for you or whatever. It just makes it harder.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rob, we really appreciate you coming on. But before we let you go, let everyone know, like, what do you got going on right now? What's going on with you?
Oh man, listen, I'm just in standby. You know, I got my managers. I want to. Oh yeah, I want to give a shout out. You know, to my manager, Warren Boxing Management from the UK. My sponsors, Jab Signature. You know, and also my promoter, Priority Boxing out in the UK. You know, them guys gave me They've been with me for. They've been with me for a while now. You know, they've been taking care of me. You know, I appreciate everything. They're moving my career along, so I want to thank them guys for that.
Yep.
You know, and I'm like I said, I'm on standby right now. You know, something next month or in 2 months. You know, whatever comes knocking on the door, you know, I'll be prepared for and ready to go.
No, absolutely. But again, Rob, we really appreciate you coming on. We really appreciate your time. It was great having you.
Oh man, all thanks to you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We'll definitely do it again soon. When you get
Oh
something,
yes.
whatever, we'll talk again and you know, talk some more fights and hopefully we can start seeing that star shine a little brighter.
Oh yeah, most definitely, fellas. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys.
Rob, you stay safe out there, Rob, all
Oh
right?
yeah, you too, fellas. Thanks a lot.
Yep, have a good one.
Yep.
All right, guys, that was Robert Duran Jr., son of Roberto Duran. Great interview. Great conversation, as always. Obviously, he's a up-and-coming guy. He had a couple issues a couple years ago, but he's trying to get back on his feet now. And he seems to be taking the right steps, so.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's one of these things. I'm glad he's like one of these guys that he's kind of like you know, taking the you know, the Adonis Creed approach. He doesn't really kind of want to make a name off his dad, even though he has his name, and it's one of these things like you know, he's also one of these guys. You know, he has that old school vibe to him where he doesn't want anything handed to him. He wants to kind of make his own way, make his own name. You know, kind of, you know, have that pressure built him into a diamond, man. Like I said, man, I'm really intrigued to kind of see
where
how
he goes.
kind of, we need the, you know, guys like him in these smaller weight classes in boxing to kind of give the sport more of a shot in the arm. If it takes a guy like Robert Duran to kind of give us some more excitement, there's people like you know, I've seen guys in the chat mentioning some names, but are those any of those kind of North American stars? Or did I miss that?
I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know if you guys have missed it, but like we haven't had that here, and I think that's kind of one of the problems. Yes, like we've had, you know, Joshua. Yes, we've had Wilder and stuff like that, but you know, I don't mean to go there, but like, you know, the Mexican American champions always kind of have a special heart with boxing fans.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, of course.
For whatever reason, it's just I don't know if it's the, you know, that dog in them that they bring into the fight, you know, or whatever. It's one of the things that, you know, it's kind of missing from the sport for whatever reason. I don't know. And like I said, I don't know if it's a combination of money going other places, of you know, not having some of those systems in place. Like, you know, the Olympic boxing isn't what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's things where you wonder, but like I said, I think he could do it. Like, yeah, and
absolutely.
And like I was also saying, like he was sitting there saying he got into the game late. Like, listen, I think he's into it at a perfect time. You know, he doesn't really have the miles and wear and tear. We'll see what kind of the next few years hold for him. Hopefully, he gets some good fights and gets the move in the way that he wants it to go. So
yeah, absolutely. But obviously, we didn't get to our favorite NFL moment.
The fans get back and forth with the with the Ertz and Adams things, and you guys got into some LSU talk. But like I said, you know, real quick for me, dude. Like one of my first things, I'll always remember Merrill Reese with 4th and 1 twice with the Eagles and the '96 Cowboys. That's
a good one.
Stop them again, man. It's one of the it just rings memories to me. Yeah. Derek Thomas's 8-sack game against the Seahawks and David Craig. That's another
good one.
It's another one of my. I'm like, hey man, I'm old. Leave me alone.
I hear you, but we'll delve more into that next week.
Personal memory, physical memory. 08 Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving
one.
Game against the Arizona Cardinals. That was so much fun.
That's a great one. But obviously, first things first, we say it every week and we really mean it. Guys, we really do appreciate you joining us and joining the conversation with us. Whether you agree with us or not, obviously it's just a conversation. That's all we're having. We're just doing our best to try and hope, just to kind of get you guys away from everything that's kind of going on in this world right now. Everything's crazy right now. So we kind of hope we kind of took your mind off all that a little bit. And that's all we're here to do. We're just here to talk sports with you guys. That's it.
Yeah, man. Listen, we're tired to talk sports. We're here to keep the conversation going. Whatever you guys want to talk about, like I said, we're trying to bring in different perspectives, different people. Look at all the stuff that we've been doing. The stuff that's going to be coming out in the next week with the interviews that all our different shows have lined up right now. We're going to keep the conversation going, and like I've been saying, regardless if you're your family, your friend, your troll, whatever. Let's sit there and have a conversation.
That's all it's about. But as always, before we wrap up, a word from our sponsor. We are brought to you by our doc, Make 'em Yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton locations in New Jersey. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. We're also brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. I just said it. Ambuck Services, AMBUCK Services.com. Call Michael Ambrose. Tell him A2D sent you. Get yourself 20% off. Gutters, gutter guards, deck restoration, anything you need done outside of your house, they got you covered. AmbuckServices.com. AMBUCK Services.com. And as always, Jake Friel, Steve Reichel, and we'll check you guys back on another episode of the Weekly Roundup. See you guys.